Um, uh, those were my early exposures to Dietrich Werner. And then there was a big gap, and I didn't see him for a while until I came back here in the early 70s. I was going to school in New Paltz, but I couldn't afford to go party in New Paltz because I didn't have any money. But I could afford to party in Rosendale because I had a lot of friends. And one of those friends was Dietrich. And if there was ever an individual that I met that personifies what is so unique and special about this town, this village, this place, it was Dietrich Werner. If villages, and I still think of Rosendale as a village, I'm sorry to those of you who voted the other way in 1976 in the campaign that Dietrich and I ran to stop that. If ever a village was made into a human being, it would be a guy with long flowing white hair and a big white beard who was just as comfortable hunkering down with guys with gun racks as he would be with guys wearing the same flannel shirt that they had on in 1976. It was Dietrich Werner. I mean, he is this town. And to me, that's a wonderful thing. When I walk down the street, when I go to the movies, when I visit some of the stores, when I come and see friends here, I still see Dietrich. I still see his image. I still see so much of the good that he did for this community. For those of you who are involved in politics, let me tell you what his greatest resource was in the 1970s. He had a phone bank. That meant he had more than one phone in his house. And in fact, he had two. And that was enough to reach every village resident several times. And again, let me take this moment on behalf of Dietrich, Billy Gouldy, and the other people who were involved in that. I apologize for the numerous times we called and bothered you over those several weeks, and I guess you proved that you didn't really want to hear what we had to say, or some of you did. But that didn't stop Dietrich. He didn't pick a cause because it was popular. He didn't pick a cause because it was, vogue. He didn't pick it because it was sexy. He picked it because he did things that he thought were right. And he thought that the village needed to maintain its identity. He had such a great sense of place. So from that point forward, we had established our relationship as adults. I was a kid when I first met him, and he was an adult. He was probably in his early 20s, but for all I knew, he was 90. I was about 11. But we established our relationship as adults then, and that endured over many, many decades to come. When Dietrich became involved in the Independence Party, it was a great opportunity for us to sit down and have very candid conversations, I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Gail, that he couldn't have with other people involved in politics, that we could talk about people plain and simple. And he would call me up sometimes and say, so-and-so is running for office. Tell me what you really think about them. Tell me what they're really like. And I would say, Dietrich, they're the real deal. Do what you can to help them out. Or Dietrich, you should probably call somebody else to find out about that person. And it was always a wonderful conversation. He taught me a great deal in politics. He taught me a great deal in socializing and in living. He taught me that you should fight a fight. Whether you're going to win or lose, if it's the fight you think you should be in, you should be in it. And don't be daunted by the prospects of failure. That's secondary. Get into the fight. Another thing that he taught me, and this maybe is the most valuable lesson that I learned in terms of doing business in my office, is meetings are okay, but meetings with food are a lot better. So when we had to have controversial meetings in my office, we would put on a feast. And if you just came in to talk to me, we would make sure there was food on the conference table to eat. And that has been a tradition in our office ever since, and I attribute a lot of that to Dietrich. And when I say he liked food, he liked all kinds of food, but if you had to subdivide that, and if it was going to be a really challenging conversation, nothing tops ice cream. And sitting down and having ice cream with Dietrich and weighing out the future of politics in this county, in this town, was always a relaxing and invigorating experience. I'm going to let you in on a little secret that I don't think is much of a secret at all. He really didn't care much about politics. He didn't care much about petitions and elections and party offices. Those were secondary to him. Those were means to an end. Unlike so many people who are involved in politics, they're in it for the game. He was in it for the value. He was in it for what he could change in society. And boy, has anyone made a mark on society like Dietrich has. Century House, reintroducing the United States of America to the beauty of Rosendale cement, and reminding everybody across this country how important this area has been to the development of this country. When you go down and you see the base of the Statue of Liberty, you got to think of Dietrich now. When you go to Washington, D.C., and you see some of the monuments there, you got to think of Dietrich. When you're driving on Highway 1, heading out to Key West, and you look to your right, and you see the railroad bridge that is just a modern miracle. It ought to be in an encyclopedia as one of the modern wonders of the world. You can't help but think of Dietrich because he reminded all of us, a new generation, that Rosendale cement had a role in each one of those. He knew the connections, and he connected everything. And it wasn't just cement. It wasn't just this goopy stuff that, you know, can burn you a little bit if you touch it too long, and that dries out, gets crusty, and leaves dirt under your fingernails. He knew that it was also a transportation system. He knew that it was a community growing and developing, and he could tell you every single little detail about that. He loved it so much, he couldn't keep it inside himself, and he wanted to spread that word. And we are all so lucky that he found so many fellow travelers who wanted to do the same thing. And if we do anything here today, and here forward today, let's honor his memory by continuing to do the good things that he did, whether it be in politics, by making sure that it's good people who get to run for office and have a leg up. If it's in the community, don't ever forget your neighbors. And I should tell you that in that campaign in 76 or 74, 5, whatever it was, half of Rosendale burned down. And we had fundraisers for the campaign, and we took all that money and we used it for the people who were burned out of their house, and it didn't matter that we no longer had resources for the campaign. That was largely at Dietrich's behest that we did that. So always do the right thing, and do what you can to preserve the memories and extol the importance and the uniqueness of where we live, because that's what Dietrich did. And now he can't do that except in our memories, and how he has inspired us, and how he's instilled us all with that sense. And it is our duty, our obligation, and our honor to carry on his traditions. And thank you for your kind attention.
Next, I'd like to call David Palmquist to say a few words. David himself can tell you how he knows Dietrich. It's not much of a surprise. It's sort of formal, but come on up, David.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you, family, Assemblyman Cahill. I'm in the chartering office of the New York State Education Department, so at this point I should say I'm from the government. I'm here to help you. But I got to meet Dietrich at Century House because they had applied for an absolute charter, which the regents would grant if a historical society met the standards for the institution. And I told Dietrich ahead of time on the phone, I have to see everything attic to basement. And I tell you, you sometimes get what you ask for. We went through building after building, attics, basements. He was so thrilled to just pick up a pile of old papers on the second floor and start showing me receipts of the Snyder Company and the family. And then we went to the cavern. And I was never so cold on a June day as down in that cavern. But we hiked over the trails, we saw the whole thing. He was so excited. And indeed, the regents granted the absolute charter. Assemblyman Cahill came to a presentation we had. But what I want to say is that I was going over some legal papers, and we have a certificate we issue, our attorneys issue, to show that your corporation is in legal existence. And it has a line in there which really struck me, and it strikes me right now, and that is that the corporation has a perpetual duration. And just think about that. The Century House Historical Society has a perpetual duration. It's like that cement. It's like those rocks up there, those hills. Imagine this, that what he and the rest of you started is going to live forever, long after we're gone. This corporation will live on. All you have to do, I shouldn't say all, it's hard, it's work, but you have to maintain it, but indeed it will live. And so that's what I see as his legacy. From Olana to numerous other historic sites in the Hudson Valley, government and foundations can surely do their part. Grants are important, but it was individuals who stepped up to save. So many of these sites, when, like Olana or like Century House, the land could have been subdivided, it could have been used for commercial purposes, it could have simply disappeared from the map as an historic site, and instead all of you stepped up to save it. Individuals acting. So Dietrich and what he and the rest of you have done will live forever, a perpetual duration. So he was a terrific, he's a terrific example, and all of you are, we'll do what we can to help. All of you, I am certain, will carry Century House forward. Thank you.